on behalf of our chair, who was unable to be on this particular meeting call. He is to be excused, but I'll call the roll call. Commissioners Thino here, Stevens
Here.
Sobieski.
Soviak's here.
Sobiek. We're going to get that right eventually, Mike.
Sooner or later.
Okay. And it should be noted that Dave Hansen is here and Alder Kathy LaFave. Is there a motion to approve items C and D, the agenda and the minutes, with one correction? With the agenda, we will move at the request of Alder LaFave, we'll move item E3 ahead of item E1. Is there a motion to approve C and D with those changes?
Motion to approve.
There is a motion to approve. Mike, do you second?
I second it.
Okay, moved in second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item E3. Mike, turn it over to you, Dave. This is an item that we had for us before.
But and just to summarize, the discussion revolved around the reasons behind the request for change of the 25 speed zone. So some questions on the limits, particularly the southern limit, which would be Pine Street, on why that was being selected as one of the change areas. And then a third item that we had discussed was keeping consistency along North Webster Avenue, as we don't want to see a lot of change with the speed zones, going from 25 to 35 to say something else. So with that being said, in the city, I'm just going to summarize what we have in the southern limits, which is roughly around Garland / Grinion Street to the north, all the way to University Avenue. It's posted 25 north of University, all the way out until it turns to East Shore Drive. And actually, I believe as it even extends in East Shore, it's 35 now. So we really have two speed zones in place. And this one in particular would be south of the section that we just recently changed to 35, which is at University, north of basically Radisson Street. So that's really a summary of what we had talked about. And I know that there was a request to see if the alder could either give us an explanation or attend the meeting. So Kathy is here, and I guess I'll ask that if Kathy, if you have a few words, if you wouldn't mind saying relative to your request.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I've had some discussions off and on with Dave, and I put the request in and I went to Pine Street, but then I think, I don't know, was you, Dave, or someone had mentioned maybe it should actually, request should have gone to Walnut Street, because that is pretty much, I know there's the apartment, which is residential, but a lot of it is business. And usually 35 is in a, kind of a business area, 30, 35, somewhere like that. And usually in residential, it's 25 to 30. And that's also a little surprised with Webster going to 35, but that's fine. It's made wide enough. It seems to be flowing fine, but I thought a continuation would be best, continuing from University. One reason is that the lights are really hard from University to Main on Webster to make that light. I would say it's pretty much like 9.5 times out of 10, you can't make it. And I thought if the speed limit was consistent up to 35, you can make the green light at University 35, you continue that speed as long as it's not too, like Dave mentioned, the little hill from the Webster going over the river. If this isn't excessive for that, if you do 35, you should probably light too. That was my observation. I may be wrong. I don't know. Dave's in his department. I mean, they can look at all that and see if that would be accurate. And I just brought it up. I thought it would make it more smooth flowing through there. And as you know, the other part from University to Walnut, there aren't a lot of driveways. And I think that's another consideration that you look at too. So I just thought it would flow better. That's just the reason that I brought it up. And I mean, if Dave and his department decide that, no, it should stay at 25, I'm fine with that.
Dave, we just put up the signs for the 35 area, didn't we?
Yeah, that was probably about 4 months ago.
Okay. Is there value in holding off on changing any more signs until we make sure what we have in place is working properly?
Well, what we have in place, I guess by feedback, has been successful. I know that, I've heard anecdotally from people saying they think it's more appropriate. I guess maybe what you're getting at is time will tell if, if there's any safety issues relative to the increase of speed. But I guess what we really have to do is do a speed survey and find out the before and after on the just changed segment, see if that made any difference. And again, like I said, the safety component of that, which would be review of number of crashes, if any. Hopefully there has been none. I haven't been signaled on any that have occurred. I guess probably the more important part, at least with the request here, is to look at that segment. Kathy, she did reiterate something that she and I had spoken about, which was about the crest of the curve of the bridge, which, we would have to look at that and determine whether or not 35-mile-an-hour speed would be appropriate over that bridge. The bridge crest may be designed less than that. I think that's the presumption that's maybe that we have out there. But as many of you know, a good part of that was already reconstructed. I mean, pretty much everything, because the North Webster project went all the way to the bridge, and then everything south of the bridge was done on a different project. So we really have new pavement all the way to Main Street. So I don't think poor pavement condition, that definitely is not an issue when it comes down to looking at speed zone, actually increasing the speeds. But to me, it's more of an engineering thing. I mean, and by statutory, Wisconsin state statutes, that is, we have to look at it with every speed zone adjustment must at least have a speed study that has been conducted and submitted to the appropriate body, which in this case is where we are today, the Traffic Bike and Ped Commission. So if it's the will of the commission, I certainly would support a speed zone study be conducted in the requested area. And if the commission so desires to have it looked at relative to that southern zone, potentially, if that's the appropriate spot, as the alder had mentioned, maybe Walnut might be a different location for a southern terminus, and all these other factors that I brought up about keeping continuity, not changing speeds all that much along the corridor, and because there's a lot of components for compliance, and that's certainly one of them, is not changing the speed zone up too much, and it just you really can't do that to the public. So if that's the will of the commission, we can do the study. The study would obviously have to take place in a little bit warmer weather, at least when we don't have a threat of snow on us, which we do now. We usually wait till at least April to May before we actually start conducting these studies and get some results back. So there could be a motion to refer this to staff for a speed study, but just want everyone to know that this would not be something that comes back at the next meeting.
Okay, I think that's personally I think is there a motion or further discussion?
Can, oh, does Craig want to say something?
No,
Otherwise-
Kathy, what did you want to say before I make the motion?
Yeah, I was just thinking too, I said 35, does this make sense at all? I just thought of something. You got 35 for university. If you put it at 30 going up to Walnut, then you got 25. Does that make more sense? Because, if you change like the 35 and all of a sudden you're going 25, it takes you a while. A car doesn't just all of a sudden go 35 to 25. It takes a while for them to, get down, lower their speed limit. They're not going to brake right away because they might be rear-ended. But I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base. I don't know.
I can actually answer that question. Yeah, it's actually against engineering practice to
Oh,
make
is it?
adjustments in 5-mile-an-hour increments.
Okay.
It needs
Okay.
to be 10 or more.
Okay, I'll make a motion to refer back to staff
For a speed study?
for a speed study. Thank you.
Okay, that's been moved. Mike, do you
I
second?
second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you,
let's-
everybody, for listening to me. I am going to leave, although I know you got some other good things coming up, but I'm going to leave so I can get ready for my next meeting, okay? Because I have to get in the
Thank you very
car and go.
much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'll return to item E1. Dave?
Yes. So any traffic signal that would be considered for removal, again, kind of like the last item, it requires a study, an intersection control evaluation or an ICE, in order to determine what the proper intersection control should be. I know that, Dan, you had some questions about, you think it's probably maybe one that's at the lower end of entering volume. And after our last meeting, I did look into that, and I believe it was within the top, or I should say bottom 10 of entering volume at intersections. So we do 12-hour turning movement counts at all of our signalized intersections every 3 years. And the last one that we did, I just looked at all the recent ones minus 2020, given the pandemic year. I've been discounting the volumes since they were much lower. So I've been looking at 19 and earlier, and I believe Deckner and Henry was in that bottom 10. It was towards the bottom, no doubt. And we've got over 100 traffic signals, so when you're looking at it in the bottom 10, yeah, that's probably an indication that it may not be warranted. But traffic signal warrants look at more than just entering volumes. We look at a lot of different factors such as safety, progression of movement, proximity to schools, and peak hours, things like that. So there's definitely a lot of different factors that we look at other than volume, but looking at volume alone, indications are that we may be onto something for that. So with that being said, and to follow proper guidelines, I am recommending to the commission, if indeed there's a majority here that want this looked at, that it would have to be referred to staff for study.
Is there a motion?
Motion to refer to staff.
Is there a second?
Oh, he's gone.
He's
I think
gone?
Mike, yeah, he's not on the screen anymore.
Which officially we don't have a quorum.
Oh dear.
I think we hang on the line here. My guess is that he just probably hit a bad spot, and once he tries to reconnect, Matthew, I'm sure you're observing to see if he's trying to join, and if so, if you could please let him in.
I did suggest to the mayor the other day that he send out a list of vacancies on all boards and commissions to the presidents of all the neighborhood associations. Maybe they have some ideas of some people that should be on these boards and commissions, because we currently have 2 vacancies, and That hurts when you have a couple members absent.
Dave, you would know regarding traffic, do you have to be a citizen of Green Bay?
That has been standing practice, although I do not believe we have it in our bylaws that states otherwise. Mike is now back on with us. And Mike, if you could unmute, please. So, all right, you with us, Mike?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
Yep, I'm
good,
back.
Mike.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll make a motion to refer to staff.
I second it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Item E3.
E2.
Oh, excuse me, E2. E2.
So this was for traffic study request, to conduct a study, safety study, the intersection of Hazelwood Lane and Wood Lane intersection. Alderman Vanderleest District 12 would be the associated alder. This one is an interesting one, as in, if you look at the corporate limits and boundaries, plus the ownership of street right away, we've got a lot of players. City of Green Bay has the north half, or north approach to the intersection, or a quarter of the intersection. Village of Ashwaubenon is the southern, and the east and west legs, which is Hazelwood Lane, is also a county highway, would be then 50% county share. I did have a conversation with Public Works Director Paul Fontecchio at Brown County, and so he's aware of this request. And just, I want you to know that there is an associated request that's already been heard by the Improvement Service Commission, or Committee, sorry, for request for sidewalks on the west side of Wood Lane between Ironwood and Hazelwood. So really it's from the four-way stop north. And that was referred to staff for study. My division will be conducting that study. And when I brought all this into the conversation with Director Fontecchio, he would like to have the first right to look at it, seeing how he does have the majority. So with that being said, and to honor that request, I am making a recommendation to the commission to refer this request to Brown County Public Works to conduct a traffic study to review the safety of Hazelwood Lane and Wood Lane intersection.
I'll make that motion to refer to Brown County.
I'll be back in a second. I got somebody at the door.
I think we need a bring your pet to work day, or I mean, meeting day.
Oh, I've seen that happen quite enough, Craig. I don't know if, I only have 2 cats, so I don't know how well they would do coming out of the house.
Okay, sorry about that. So there's been a motion to refer this to the county. Is there a second?
I would second it.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Is there any other items to come before the commission?
If we're moving on to informational, I just wanted to, just in case there's any questions out there relative to the virtual meeting versus in-person meeting. I know that typically Matt Keepers will ask about the status of that. The answer to that would be that there is no change up to this point. Although I do understand that, I think everyone can see that things are starting to open up with the various changes, the number of cases going down and the prevalence of the vaccine. However, our policy here at the city has not changed as of yet. So with that being said, unless we hear anything between now and the next meeting, I just wanted to let everyone know that we're still on a virtual meeting schedule.
Okay. Anything else? Next meeting would be Monday, April 19th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Second.
adjourn.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Second.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have
Aye.
it. Thank you
Aye.
much, all. Everybody stay safe.
All right,
Yes,
thank you.